From the hockeyfan.com studios, this is the Dump and Chase podcast. Stream the show on Western Reserve Radio, YouTube, or wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. With your hosts, Sam Olmstead and Justin Irwin. The show starts now.
Daddy, what are you doing?
I don't know. Sam paid me $5 to read this. Show starts now.
Hello, Phantom fans, and welcome to Season 5, Episode 8 of the Dump and Chase podcast. I'm Sam, he's Justin, and we are still flying high after an exciting weekend of hockey at the Covelli Center. Justin, my brother from a shorter mother, now that we've had some time at home to decompress, how are you feeling about the past weekend?
It was a little bit of back and forth, but my pulse has finally settled down a little bit. Really glad we managed to skip overtime.
So your pulse is down to around what, like 140, 150?
Depends on how much coffee I've had.
I've seen you eat. You have the metabolism of like a jackrabbit. It's ridiculous. All right, so before we get started, as always, this program is brought to you by the amazing physicians and staff at Advanced Podiatry, who I needed last week after picking up a box at work that turned out that the bottom was completely waterlogged and had 4 heavy jugs break through and made sure to take turns falling on my toes. So if this happened to you, and unlike me, you did not escape serious injury, go to advancedpodiatry.com for office locations and appointment information, including same-day appointments, as well as information on treatments offered and services provided. Again, check out advancedpodiatry.com. So right off the bat, I'm glad to see you're still sticking with your New Year's resolution of wearing pants while we're recording. We're a little over a week in, so congratulations there. I really appreciate it.
You're making some bold assumptions.
Well, I mean, if I had a nickel for every time you stood up on camera and started dancing while Goodbye Horses was playing in the background, we could afford a studio to actually record the show in. But
this is also why we record separately.
That is exactly why we record separately. So as far as actual hockey news, after this past weekend, the Phantoms did climb up to 4th place in the Eastern Conference. But if you look at the standings right now, we're kind of in that period of time right now that the Western Conference was last season, where a good weekend and a bad weekend, that was the difference between finishing the weekend in 2nd place or in 6th place.
We're continually in 3rd place until Cedar Rapids finishes their game. So, it's going to be an interesting season. We're just really in the middle of it here, and down the stretch, every point counts.
Yeah, so right now in the Eastern Conference, just going 1 through 8, Chicago, Green Bay, Cedar Rapids, Youngstown, Team USA, Muskegon, Dubuque, and Madison. And you kind of have these bookends at the top and the bottom. Chicago with kind of an 8-point cushion over 2nd place Green Bay. But then Madison in 8th place, trailing Dubuque by 12 points for 7th place. And then you look at 2 through 7, Green Bay, the 2nd place team, is separated from Dubuque, the 7th place team, by 6 points.
The middle pack there is going to be fighting tooth and nail, probably down to the wire at this point. Again, every point counts.
Yeah, exactly. So in some other news, 3 members of the Phantom staff were named to the BioSteel All-American game, as well as the 4 players we mentioned last weekend. Associate head coach Andy Contoys, equipment manager Stephen Smith, and athletic trainer Amber Martinelli will all be also making the trip to Plymouth here soon for the BioSteel All-American game. So not only 4 players, 3 staff members from Youngstown. This is this is just flat out unheard of. As far as Youngstown is concerned with it, whether it's the USHL All-Star game or USHL versus the NTDP or whatever version of this game that they've come up with. This is just unheard of. to just kind of have this caravan of Youngstown people heading to Plymouth for this game.
Yeah, and it's not just, oh, okay, here's a coach or, here's one or two players. It's depth. I mean, equipment manager, athletic trainer, it just goes to show you how well put together this organization is.
Well, you have I don't know if the NHL All-Star game still does it. I know like Major League Baseball where like every team has to have like one player one player from that team in the All-Star game. I always likened it to when I was in elementary school when we would have art class. There would be a thing every week called where you would win the Art Buster Award, where whoever did the best of whatever it was we were doing in art class that week, whoever did the best of it would win this Art Buster Award. And then there were people like me with no artistic ability whatsoever who would never win it throughout the course of the school year. So we would get like the sympathy one at the end of the school year where it's like, here, take your shoe off, put it on the desk, draw a picture of your shoe, and you draw a picture of a boiled potato and you win the Art Buster Award at the end of the school year. It's just kind of a sympathy type of thing. Definitely not the case for the Phantoms this year. No.
I know in previous years, I don't think that was the case, but the USHL likes to, do things to benefit. Never mind. You know where I was going to go on that. But yeah.
All right, so as far as this episode, we will be recapping the Phantoms' weekend sweep of the NTDP U17s. We will hear post-game comments from Coach Ryan Ward, and we will reveal our 3 stars of the week and take a look ahead to this coming weekend with the Phantoms' 2-game road trip to Muskegon. So with that, we're going to take a break. When we come back, again, we're going to take a look back at this past weekend. So keep it right here on the Dump and Chase podcast on Western Reserve Radio. And we're back with the Dump and Chase podcast brought to you by Advanced Podiatry. So like we said before, the Phantoms getting 2 wins against the U17s this past weekend. Little bit of deja vu from Friday night to Saturday night. The Friday night game, which was a 4-3 win for the Phantoms. The Phantoms are up 3-2 in the third period. The 17s pull their goaltender and then proceed to tie the game with 1:49 left. And then Andon Serbone from Youngstown gets the game winner with 1:08 remaining. And then on Saturday, which was a 5-4 win for the Phantoms are up 4-3 in the third period. The 17s pull their goalie and then proceed to tie the game with 1:21 remaining. And then Anderson Trella gets the game winner with 19 seconds remaining in the game. So I guess if the script from Friday night works, you might as well repeat it on Saturday.
Yeah, I mean, it made for fun to watch hockey, I guess, at least at the end of the game. For some of us fans, it was a little bit nerve-wracking, but that's why we pay to watch it.
I went back Saturday night after I got home from the game. I went back and I was kind of watching a few bits here and there from the replay of the game. Phantoms broadcaster Matt Lipsack had brought up a point I actually thought was kind of interesting because he said they were actually discussing that he couldn't remember a game where the opposing team had pulled their goaltender to tie the game for the Phantoms to come back and win it in regulation, that he couldn't remember a time that happened, and it happened twice this weekend.
I'm going to have to go back and look. I think I might remember at least one, but I don't even know how I would look that up. Shoot. But yeah, it's not something that happens often, and twice in one weekend, I'm 100% certain that hasn't happened.
Yeah, as far as some notes from the weekend, we have been talking about the Phantoms really going over as far as the power play in recent history. Came back to life a little bit, picked up a couple of power play goals in the Saturday game.
Yeah.
So yeah, nice. Hopefully that's a sign that they're kind of coming out of this downswing with the power play. But it was nice to see him cash in a couple times on Saturday.
Yeah, definitely. There was still a lot, obviously, to work on, which we'll probably discuss. But those 2 goals Saturday were huge, obviously. So hopefully we get a little bit more of a pickup from the power play unit.
And of course, like I had said, the game on Saturday, Andrew Centrella getting the game winner. And this is something that's been going on for a little while now. Andrew Centrella has played a lot of games in the USHL. He's racked up a lot of assists, hadn't got that first goal. And the coincidental thing was before we recorded last week, and then again at the game on Saturday night, we had kind of discussed doing this running gag on the show where we would make a prediction at the end of every episode, but the prediction was always going to be Andrew Centrella finally gets his first USHL goal. And, that was going to come from not that we were picking on him because he hadn't got a goal, but we wanted him to get that goal. And we kind of went, we were going back and forth on whether or not we should do it or not. And we talked about it on Saturday towards the end of the game. And then a couple minutes after we discussed it at the game was when he picks up the game winner.
I mean, literally probably 2 minutes or less. Yeah. And we've said several times this season and last, I mean, he's one of our best defensemen. A big reason for, a few of our wins just with solid defensive play. So, yeah, to see him get that first goal like that was fun.
But, I almost want to say it was like the whistle before that goal was scored, like the break in the action before that goal was scored, that we were talking about that again.
I think it was after the tying goal.
Yeah. It was very close to it, because if you sit around us, you'll hear us, like, when it's coming down to the end of the weekend, we kind of start discussing show ideas while the game's winding down, kind of throwing out some initial thoughts. So, yeah, that was a strange one. We need to talk about Kenta's face.
Yeah.
Kenta Isagai, or Isogi if you're the Cedar Rapids play-by-play guy. Kenta's face did not have a good weekend.
Kenta played great hockey. Might not have showed so much on the score sheet, but certainly showed a lot of heart out there coming back after taking one right off the nose.
Yeah.
I mean, that looked like it just, and anybody who's ever been, punched straight on the nose, that really, really hurt. I mean, even a little bit of a tap really hurts. Something like that. He was in a lot of pain. Came back the next period with the face shield on. But then Saturday.
Basically gets run face first into the top of the boards in front of the Phantoms bench, which, if not for having the fishbowl on, that could have been horrific.
It would have been really bad.
Yeah. Hit from behind. He goes down, kind of hits that edge. It was a 5-minute major.
Yeah.
Was it a game misconduct?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. 5-minute major and a game misconduct. If not for him wearing that fishbowl, that would have been horrendous. Because I was not at the game on Friday. I was watching on Flow Hockey. I was at the game on Saturday. And early on in the game, I remarked to you, what is going on with Kenta? He looks 2 years younger. And then you just kind of laughed, and you're like, that's because his face is swollen right now.
Yeah. Almost like reverse Botox.
Yeah. It's just the chubby cheeks, the rosy glow. His face was swollen. That's why he looked that way. Kenta is a good looking kid. Apparently this upset the U17s a little bit. I mean, it's they wanted to try rearrange a few things, and
I think Kenta's been targeted, I think, a bit this season.
A little bit.
But this was ridiculous.
Yeah.
Suspendable.
Yeah.
USHL, suspendable.
But from both of us, we hope Kenta heals up sooner rather than later. Might need to keep that fishbowl on for a little while, just for everyone's sake, because
I'm not sure the damage to the nose from that puck, but yeah, I'd wear it for a few games if I could.
Yeah,
if I were him.
And that kind of comes. I mean, we always make the jokes about the NTDP and the face cages, and they tend to be a little braver than they should be. It feels like it's getting worse.
Yeah. I mean, that was easily a 2 or more game suspension. The jury's still out on that. If he gets 1, I'll be surprised.
I mean, just the high
One
hit.
is yeah, 1 is probably the most that they will get.
But then the high hits. I mean, 10 feet in front of us, we watched, William Whitelaw almost get his head taken off, knocked his helmet off from a high hit that the referee watched and just kind of shrugged his shoulders and moved on.
Yeah. And I mean, they took a bunch of penalties, but nothing seems to really deter them from taking them. And the more, sometimes if you score 1 or 2, on a team, they'll, get the message. Even if we were scoring on these guys, I don't think they're going to take the message. In fact, I think they're going to get worse.
This is not like an anti-hitting rant or anything like that. There's good hits in hockey. There's nothing better than just a great like open ice shoulder check or anything like that. That's part of the game. What they're doing is not part of the game.
No.
They're head hunting.
Yeah, this is like old Ty Domi.
Yeah. And they have the cages on. What can anybody do to them?
Yeah, and exactly. If they don't really care about taking the penalties, we've discussed, what is their stake in this league, and in terms of, yes, they can make the playoffs, but I don't think that's their primary motivation. And, they've been historically treated different.
And we talk about repercussions, and it's not just penalties or league suspensions or anything like that, just to kind of like reference like an old like wrestling concept. You tag someone, you're owed a receipt. You're not going to get that receipt with a cage on, and they know that.
No. And I mean, thankfully, we didn't really resort to too many penalties against them. I think we did overall pretty good at restraining ourselves this weekend.
I think the composure was better this weekend than it has been in the past.
Exactly. So I think that was a big part of this win. 2 wins.
All right, so I'm done talking. We're reaching that point in the season already. I'm done talking about the NTDP for right now.
Unfortunately,
we've still got a ways to go. So during the show last week, we had talked about our discussions with Ryan Ward during the off season. Him talking about kind of his philosophies and what he wanted the Phantoms defense to be, just kind of being relentless, puck pursuit, forcing turnovers, getting after those puck battles that, in the past, the Youngstown might not have even, gone after to begin with, let alone get involved in. So after the game on Saturday, I got to ask Coach Ward how he feels that concept has progressed so far this season. And this is what he had to say.
Yeah, I think that we are still a little bit inconsistent with it. I think that when we do it, we're really, really hard to play against. And I think, you see our D joining the rush, and obviously in the offensive zone, we want to make sure our D are involved. But, I think for us, anytime you have to play a game that's, a little bit up tempo, and you're going to play a little bit riskier. So you're going to need guys bought into coming back and, our 4 and 5 not getting beat back up ice and having a good F3, and D understanding when to pinch and things like that. So we're still working through things. Obviously, we'd like to see a little bit more consistency, I think, away from the puck, where a game like this should end 4 or 5-2 instead of 5-4. But we're getting there.
And a big thanks there to Coach Ryan Ward. And, he pointed out, throughout the season, there's inconsistencies. And again, that goes back to this is a young team. Other than the U17s, if you take them out of the equation because it's a team solely built of 16-year-olds, Youngstown by average is the youngest team in the league. And you're going to have, as you're building, you're going to have those inconsistencies and everything like that. But at the same time, and bringing it up, it really feels like, that concept has kind of grown by leaps and bounds over the past few weeks.
Oh, yeah. And I mean, I think we are probably ahead of the schedule here, especially, what we saw this last weekend. That was a very well put together NTDP U17 team. We've discussed that. maybe hitting kind of a lull, but these are talented kids. So definitely we kept up, and I think overall the defense really held out.
All right, so we're going to take another break. When we come back, we will break down this past weekend in a new segment of 4 points. So stick around with the Dump and Chase podcast right here on Western Reserve Radio.
Advanced Podiatry has been making happy feet in the Mahoning Valley for 35 years. Our offices are located in Cortland, Champion, Austintown, Columbiana, and Howland. Our Howland office has relocated to 8601 East Market Street in Howland Corners. Advanced Podiatry offers sports medicine and treatment plans for all ages. You can also request an appointment online by visiting our website at advancedpodiatry.com. Advanced Podiatry, where surgery is always a last resort.
Join Stars photographer BA and Off-Ice official Gene Cotter for Thunderstruck, the unofficial Lincoln Stars podcast, where we talk with your favorite Lincoln Stars players, coaches, and alumni.
It was a great night, yeah. Beat them in their own rink just before the buzzer was something special for sure.
I don't want to call it a surprise because I knew that there was a great, rich history for hockey here in Lincoln, but I was really happy to see the fans come back in droves and be such a great supporter for us.
I think he's copying some NHLer he's looking up to, but I don't know. I think it's Dusty. I think a lot of guys think it's sick, though.
To let them in penalty minutes back before they handed out those little 10-minute wussy misconducts on everything.
Thunderstruck the podcast, all season long, right here on the Anchor app or wherever you find your favorite podcast.
And welcome back to the Dump and Chase podcast, brought to you by Advanced Podiatry. So for listeners new and old, 4 points is where we break down the previous weekend into 4 categories: what we liked, what we didn't like, favorite moment, and the Dump and Chase podcast 3 stars of the week. So kicking it off with what we liked, and it was something we mentioned earlier, just not, for me, it was just not backing down versus a questionably aggressive, but at the same time, a very talented U17 squad. And like we said, the Phantoms held leads on, late Friday, late Saturday. The U17s were able to come back and tie those games. Did not deter the Phantoms. They got right back to work and were able, to get, late goals in the last minute of both games, to pick up these wins in regulation, not giving any points to Team USA. Just kind of taking all 2 points for themselves. But to me, I thought that was very impressive this weekend.
Definitely. So what I liked this weekend, one of my points always is you never win any of these fights against kids in face cages. We harp on this all episode, but it bears mentioning. This weekend, like I said, I thought one of the big points was we did not get into too much extra curriculars with them and stayed out of the box for the most part. You're always going to take some. You can't back down from these kids, but I thought we did a really good job of restraining ourselves, especially in critical moments. And, you play better when you're not in the box. So.
As far as what I didn't like, and while the Phantoms power play was better on Saturday, finally picking up a couple goals on the power play, at the end of the day, I mean, the way you punish the NTDP, it's not hoping for suspensions or thinking you can win a fight against them. It's on the scoreboard. Yeah. And I mean, and if, you're not, the refs aren't going to call every single one of these, questionable hits against them. I mean, the game would be 5 hours long if that was the case, with all the stoppages and everything else. I mean, it'd be a 5-hour game. So, I mean, the opportunities that you get, I would have liked to have seen them take better advantage of those opportunities when they came. Because at the end of the day, that's ultimately how you're going to punish that team for playing the way they play, is by doing it on the scoreboard.
And I don't think we scored on the 5-minute major, so.
Yeah, I don't think we did.
What I didn't like, for the most part, the early goals, but as you mentioned, we gave up some, goals immediately after we scored. Early in the game, we gave up, 2 goals, 1 in each game, less than 2 minutes. I think minute 40 was about the latest.
Yeah.
And then, after two or three times we scored and they scored less than a minute later or something.
Yeah. I think the one was like 14 seconds later.
Yeah. So just the timing of the goals, a couple of times, I guess maybe we just let up for that second. But just nitpicking at this point.
As far as my favorite moment, and there you are, low hanging fruit. That was an easy grab. Not only just the fact that Andrew Centrella got that first goal, you knew that the vast majority of the crowd knew what was happening when he scored that goal. Not just that it was, the eventual game winner, but he had finally gotten that goal. Just kind of that explosion from the crowd. Not only that, I mean, you had Phantoms coming off the bench, to mob him, in the celebration after that goal. I mean, this is something that the team had been rooting for, had been waiting to happen, and just to kind of see the entire team all get that release, and just kind of that weight off of his shoulders that he finally got that goal. Yeah, I mean, that was just so much fun to watch.
LeChance, I hope he got that puck.
Actually, when I went back and looked on FlowHawk, I don't know. I didn't see who it was, but I did see somebody throwing a puck to Smitty on the bench. So
okay,
I didn't see it live. I didn't see it live when I went back and was watching Flow Hockey. I saw somebody tossing a puck to Smitty on the bench. So yeah, they did. Yeah, they did save the puck.
Okay, awesome. So my favorite moment of the weekend, since really you took the big one, and there's not a whole lot of really other moments. I guess I could pick the game-winning goal Friday night, but I'm going to go with having you back in your seat behind me.
Aw, you are so sweet.
Yeah, you'd been gone, had some reasons why you couldn't make it, work and family.
Yeah.
So,
it had been a little while since I'd been there. I think earlier November was the last time I was at a game. I've missed a few, but yeah, I was planning on being at the one on Friday night, but I had to be to work very early on Saturday, and I was already exhausted as it was. So
yeah, and getting you back there on Saturday, being able to get that back and forth, especially there at the end, and getting prepared for this, since I don't seem to get run sheets until like an hour before.
Getting kicked in the back of the shut up.
Oh, you haven't kicked me in the back for, I don't know, a while.
Getting kicked in the back of the head, having ranch dressing splashed on you during second intermission.
I'd prefer that than whoever spilt the pop onto the floor.
Oh, good Lord. That was like standing on fly paper. Like one of those glue traps for rats. That was like standing on one of those. That was some hardcore traction we had. Whatever was spilled on the floor in that area. Good Lord. I think I might have peeled some tread off my shoes just walking through there. All right. All right. So with that, it is now time for the Dump and Chase podcast 3 stars of the week. And we're going to kick it off with the 3rd star, Jake Rossi. 2 goals, 2 assists on the weekend. And we were talking kind of our production meeting before we started recording. I can't put my finger on it. It just, when Jake Rossi scores a goal, it just feels different. There just seems to be energy that comes out of his goals. It's such a different feeling when he scores a goal. I can't explain it, but it's just, there's something there, and it's just this little extra surge at it when it's him scoring. I don't know what it is, but I mean, it's there. I mean, when you're in the arena, you can feel it.
Yeah. And a couple of big goals this weekend. So 2nd star, Justin Varner, 3 assists on the weekend, and as you pointed out, 2 of those assists were on game winners, and just doing all the little things too. Work on the boards, going in front of the net. Really great stuff from him this weekend.
I mean, I knew he had the assist on Friday on Andon Serbone's game-winning goal, just kind of down in the corner and finding Serbone just wide open in the slot. I mean, that was just a defensive failing all over for Team USA. And then started thinking about it, and I'm thinking about the Saturday game, and I'm like, wait a minute, is he the one that took a shot that the rebound popped out to Centrella? And I'm like, I think that was him that took the shot, and went and looked it up, and sure enough, so yeah, he had the assists on both game-winning goals this weekend.
So, good catch.
Yeah. And the 1st star of the week, of course, talking about pumping tires this week, Andrew Centrella picking up his first USHL goal. And I think it speaks to his character as a player is, there's been talk about him not getting that goal yet, but you never saw him in a game trying too hard to get that goal.
No,
he played his position. I mean, he's a great passer. I mean, he racks up the assists, but you never saw him forcing it as far as, trying to get to the puck, getting the puck to the net, trying to get that goal, playing more of his role as, a setup guy from the point. I mean, you never saw him trying to force it, and to me, that speaks a lot to his character. And then finally on Saturday night, the opportunity presents itself where he's in the right place at the right time. And, the rebound lands right on his tape.
Yeah. And he made no mistake on that.
No.
He's been in the 3 stars plenty of times, but
yeah,
it's just really great to put him in here for a game-winning goal.
Yeah. All right, so with the weekend behind us, let's look ahead to the future. When we come back, we'll preview the other Eastern Conference matchups this weekend and take a look at the Phantoms' trip to Muskegon for 2 games with the Lumberjacks. You are listening to the Dump and Chase podcast on Western Reserve Radio. And we're back with the Dump and Chase podcast brought to you by Advanced Podiatry. So we're going to take a look at going around the Eastern Conference as far as this upcoming weekend's games. Starting out, Cedar Rapids, they will have a home-and-home with Dubuque. Cedar Rapids, winners of 5 straight and 6 of the last 7. Again, talking about them last week, really climbing up the standings here in the past few weeks. Dubuque, on the other hand, has been going the other direction, has lost 8 of their last 11. In that 11-game stretch, they are 1-2 versus Cedar Rapids. Chicago, they will have a home-and-home with Madison. Chicago, after a 7-game winning streak, has lost 3 of their last 5. Madison, on the other hand, they are currently in a 7-game losing streak. And when you look at the numbers, you can see why. The most goals allowed, the worst power play, and the penalty kill in the Eastern Conference. And I know there's one number there you were chomping at the bit to bring up here.
Goal differential, -48.
Yeah. And that is worst in the Eastern Conference by a country mile.
It's bad. It's very bad.
What did we say? The next closest is like in the teens.
Yeah.
We're talking like potential like a 30 goal difference between their goal differential and the next worst goal differential in the Eastern Conference. Also, Madison, they actually have a 3-game weekend coming up on Thursday night. They will be hosting the U18s. So Madison has the U18s on Thursday, Chicago on Friday and Saturday, and then they're back in Youngstown the weekend after that. So prospects are not looking great for Madison right now.
Yeah, my only hope at this point is that after the beating they're probably going to get this weekend, they're not going to be too angry when they get to Youngstown.
That is the unfortunate point. The few wins that Madison has on the season, 3 of them have been against Youngstown.
6 out of 16 points in the standings.
Yeah. Hopefully we can turn that around when the time comes.
It's a hockey thing.
We're still a little ways away from that. And then Green Bay, they will be traveling up to Plymouth for 2 games with the U17s. Green Bay, winners of 6 of their last 8 games and currently 2 points ahead of Youngstown in the standings. The U17s only 1 win in the last 6 games. And again, we talked about before, they're kind of going in reverse this season. Usually we see the struggles at the beginning of the year and then they kind of pick it up as the year goes on. This year, they started out hot and it's been downward ever since.
I still think they're doing better than a couple of the previous seasons, but there are ebbs and flows and ups and downs and hockey cliches. So it's a long season and we'll see these kids a few more times. So
it is, but it's the conversations we've had about the U17s in past seasons.
Yeah,
we're having the opposite conversation than what we've had in the past.
I'm not expecting it to continue all season, but we'll see.
But one can hope.
One can very much hope.
And then capping it off, Youngstown will be traveling to Muskegon for 2 games this Friday and Saturday. Both of those games will be starting at 7:10 p.m. That will be local time here. Youngstown, winners of 8 of their last 11 games. Muskegon, only 2 wins in their last 8 games, although their final game this past weekend was an 8-5 win over Chicago. And the interesting thing that's kind of, and we didn't have the show going on when this happened, so we can kind of talk about it now. This slide that Muskegon has been on, it kind of coincides with back in December. There were kind of rumors going around that, well, now former Muskegon coach Mike Hamilton had left the team. We kind of heard those rumors, and then there was nothing for a day or two. And then just kind of out of nowhere, the official news comes out that mid-season, which is kind of an oddity in and of itself, Muskegon had changed ownership.
Yeah, and I don't know what the issue was between them and the coaching staff there. Hamilton was, I don't think, doing a poor job by any means. And certainly this did not help the team. I don't know what to make of this. It's a little odd all around.
Yeah, because, you know, and we brought up at the time, because, I mean, Muskegon was kind of floating back and forth between second and third in the Eastern Conference. Currently, they're sixth. They're in the final playoff position right now. But yeah, kind of since that news came out, like I said, you know, 2 wins in their last 8 games.
Yeah, I don't know what really went on up there. I don't think we'll ever probably find out. But yeah, new ownership, new year, new them.
I mean, I know there was the deal in Omaha last year, so saying this is kind of an oddity, but it happened last year. Omaha was kind of a special circumstance in and of itself.
Yeah.
Yeah, the stories were all over the place. The writing was on the wall. Some, you know, a lot of people were calling for change, and in what form that change came, we don't really know, because the news was really all over the place. But for Muskegon, who feels like they've been a pretty stable franchise for the past 3-4 years now, you know, have had a lot of success. I mean, you know, and like you said, I mean, Mike Hamilton is a great coach. And then the rumors,
I don't know about great, but it's certainly doing his job.
But by USHL standards, I mean, he's had a consistently good team for years now.
Yeah.
When you talk about the turnover and everything else, that's a tricky thing to do. But, you know, he's maintained that success over the past so many years, and then he's gone. And then you hear about this ownership change mid-season. And now, you know, and ever since, Muskegon's been on a downturn. They've dropped from like hovering around second, third in the conference to barely holding on to that last playoff position.
Yeah. And I mean, I don't think this is coincidental. And, you know, I nobody had said anything about the team being up for sale, or these things usually aren't really kept that secret and usually not done mid-season. So
yeah. So anyways, the last time these two teams met was on December 16th and 17th at the Covelli Center. The Phantoms swept that weekend. The Friday night game, Phantoms winning 2-1 in overtime. That was Chase Patilla getting the game winner there. And then winning on the Saturday night game 5-1. So yeah, so far, I mean, Youngstown having success against Muskegon. I can bring that up here. Yep, so far on the season, Phantoms 3-0 against Muskegon. Outscoring them in the 3 games 11-4, plus 7 goal differential there. Power play, penalty kill, numbers all look good there. So yeah, it's, you know, we talked about the success Youngstown had against Muskegon last season. You know, and at least so far this season, with still 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 more games to go. At least so far into this season, that success is carried over.
Yeah, and without really knowing anything, I'd say things are a little bit chaotic in Muskegon. So hopefully we could take advantage of that.
All right. So, and of course, for this weekend, the games will be available on Flow Hockey. I believe Muskegon still does the Mixer app where you can get the audio. If you have that particular app, I believe they're one of the teams that still do the Mixer app, that they stream the broadcaster audio through there. So it'd be another way to at least be able to listen to the game if you do not have Flow Hockey. So as far as this week, that's about all we have. We're going to go ahead and take one final break. And on the flip side, we'll wrap up this show and look ahead to next week right here on the Dump and Chase podcast on Western Reserve Radio. And we're back here on the Dump and Chase podcast, and that will do it for this episode. Again, we want to thank the official sponsor of the Dump and Chase podcast, Advanced Podiatry. So again, make sure to check out advancedpodiatry.com. Next week, we will be recapping the series with Muskegon and previewing a 3-game weekend at the Covelli Center with 1 more game against Muskegon and then 2 games with the Madison Capitals. Make sure to check the show out every Wednesday at 5 o'clock on Western Reserve Radio, either on westernreserveradio.com, the Live 365 or TuneIn apps, on the Western Reserve Radio Facebook and Twitter pages, and the Youngstown Phantoms Facebook page. You can also catch us on YouTube or wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. And be sure to check us out on social media on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Now, all of those links can be found on our Linktree page, which will be in the description of however you have decided to listen to this episode. So before we get out of here, Justin, any final words of wisdom?
Badgers? We don't need no stinking badgers. I was going to do teaching poodles how to fly, but I figured that wouldn't fly with animal rights activists.
That completely caught me off guard. I was not expecting that at all.
You didn't give me a whole lot of time to prepare for this, so somewhere my mind immediately, went to UHF.
All right, so for my co-host Justin Irwin, I'm Sam Olmstead. Thank you everyone for tuning in, and we will talk with you all next week. Bye now.